뉴욕타임즈 스크랩 해놓은 걸 좀 읽겠습니다. Climate disaster is the new normal. There are only two options, adapt or suffer. At the moment, however, there is no national plan for climate adaptation, just as there is no national plan for mitigation. Every year, the federal government spends about $46 billion on recovery from disaster, about 7 times what is spent on resilience. As David said, Frank and Eric note in the Times, in many cases, the recovery money is spent in ways that increase the risk and the cost of climate change by inviting people to build and move into harm's way. Church of Christian could lose its U.S. footing. Leadership scandals drive pastors to lead their flocks out of the Hillsong fold. I can't think of a church in the English-speaking Western world with as broad a global reach as the Hillsong. The church press office described the agreements as standard elements of their general contracts with church leaders. The decision wasn't arrived at lightly, and it was made calculating the significant cost, Mr. C said. But anyone who has been victimized in our church needs to be seen and heard. Mr. C expects to begin holding services June 1st under a new name to be determined. In his sermon on Sunday, Mr. C called for an internal investigation into Hillsong's global board to make the findings of that investigation public and to purge any board members who have protected the institution and not the people. Pastor Sam Above preaching at Hillsong Atlanta for the last time before leaving the denomination. We believe the Lord is calling us to move into the next season, Mr. C said. Hillsong's Australian founder, Brian Hurston, resigned amid scandal. Terry, a fifth-generation pastor in Phoenix, joined the global megachurch Hillsong in part because of what he described as its distinctly joyful approach to church life. Hillsong was an institution where leaders seemed light and free, offering a church experience that attracted tens of thousands of people around the world. Starting in Phoenix, Mr. C eventually brought 6 churches in 2 states into the Hillsong fold. Last week, he took them out. We cannot continue in our global family as much as we love it, Mr. C told his congregation in an emotional sermon on Sunday, citing, among other reasons, the recent resignation of Hillsong's global leader under a haze of scandal. Under haze. Hard work. In the last 2 weeks, Hillsong has lost 9 of its 16 American church campuses, a swift and stunning decline for one of the world's largest and the most influential evangelical churches. Just a few years ago, Hillsong was the leading edge of cool Christianity, a quickly expanding network that appealed to young people and city dwellers with energetic, stylish preachers and an upbeat atmosphere. Hillsong translates the charismatic church experience, which emphasizes miracles and personal encounters with the Holy Spirit, for a hip, upscale audience. Woke up nightmare, 44 floors past where the elevator stops. Residents on higher floors of NY skyscrapers can be trapped in gilded cages. These experts have so far been unable to determine the source of the surges and believe that will not be able to do so without the full collaboration and 24/7 support of Con Edison, DTH Capital, and said in a statement. Con in turn says it has conducted extensive testing at the building and found no indication that our power supply is deficient or compromised. London has long been a premier destination for liberal tourists, litigants in search of a friendly jurisdiction. Overlooked at home, acclaimed abroad. Drive My Car won Oscar, but it isn't a product of the Japan film industry. Ryusuke's film is based on stories by Haruki Murakami and renders Japan in a way accessible for foreigners. In a brief email exchange, as Shigehiko, a former president of the University of Tokyo and the mentor of Mr. Hamaguchi, said he had no interest in the Academy Awards and wrote that Drive My Car is hardly an excellent work without further explanation. Honestly, you should keep using these verboten terms. The language police have gone too far. If we do, then by the same logic, We should no longer refer to whipped cream, since enslaved people were whipped over shucking corn, because the phrase shucking and jibing refers to black people faking glee to placate white people. If those hypotheticals seem to be pushing it, I'm not sure how brown bag is different. The comedian expects us to take a joke. He should be able to take the criticism. Mr. C spent much of the closure his latest comedy special for Netflix, cleverly deflecting criticism. The set is a 72-minute display of the comedian's own brilliance, the self-proclaimed GOAT, greatest of all time, of stand-up, delivers 5 or 6 lucid moments, of brilliance, surrounded by a joyless tirade of incoherent and seething rage, misogyny, homophobia, and transphobia. Robocalls are not even the worst of it. Updating our war against the scammers and assaulted interrupters. I am happy to inform you that the U.S. government is wrapping up the war on robocalls. The enduring importance of America's 1965 Immigration Act. In May 1943, Buck, her husband, and a group of intellectuals and publishers formed the Citizens Committee to repeal Chinese expulsion and place immigration on a quota basis. For 5 decades, the Hot Seller Act would bring tens of millions of immigrants from Asia, Southern and Eastern Europe, and Africa. As it turns out, the nativists were right about the coming hordes. The immigrants from Asia arrived in a series of waves throughout the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. They included my parents, my grandparents, my mother's 5 siblings, 2 of my cousins, and me. And although their new country did have pockets of people who looked like them, they shared almost nothing in common with their fellow Asian Americans, except some well-worn threads of culture, whether food or holiday ritual, and the assumption of white people. Radical ideas need quiet spaces, while social movements today seem to burn hot and die fast. The question is how to create the condition those first 2 acts demand: the closeness and the heat and the passionate whispering. Delving into the science of awe. Experts say that wonder is an essential emotion with psychological benefits. We are at this cultural moment of narcissism and self-shame and criticism and entitlement all gets us out of that. It's time to upgrade your warm-up. Controlled movements can help you prepare and make your workout safer. A diet that stood the test of time. The Mediterranean way of eating. Research shows it really is that good for you. It isn't a diet that was cooked up in the mind of some person to generate the money. That being said, she added, the diet allows you for some flexibility, the occasional cake or steak, one undo its overall benefits. A deluge of unwanted political messages. Billions of texts annoy U.S. porn owners with their incessant pinging. resolutions that are good for the soul. There is a hope in the idea that we can change as individuals and as a society. There is goodness then in the very process of making resolution. There is hope in the idea that we can change, that we can keep growing, learning and trying new things. This hope of renewal is the point of resolution for me. Resolution. The false promise of ChatGPT, the most prominent strain of AI, encode a flawed conception of language and knowledge. That day may come, but its dawn is not yet breaking, contrary to what can be read in hyperbolic headline and reckoned by injudicious investment. Hyperbolic.